Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to Shelf Stories, the channel that tells tales from games, books, and life. And welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop podcast. I am your host, Jason. Thank you so much for stopping by with this giant chat with friends. My family from Connecticut is here, but the man that we are going to feature right now, he is from the UK. He has a Kickstarter. What's that?
I'm just hyping you. I'm being a hype man.
You got a hype man over here.
UK, baby.
Kickstart. He's from Huddersfield, as a matter
Huddersfield!
And you know him for Dice Tower. Dan and Cora will review children's games. Dan and Cora, his 8-year-old daughter. 8-year-old? I hope he's an 8-year-old.
Yeah, 8. She's 8.
Yes, I got it right. Yeah. 8 years old daughter. They designed a game together, a cooperative dungeon crawling, a kid-friendly game called CoraQuest. We are putting away the reviewer hat. I'm normally a hard-boiled, very serious person about this, but we're going to put that away for about 45 minutes, and we are going to go shill, baby, shill.
Oh, yeah.
For Mr. Dan Hughes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here. Nice to see you, Jason. Brandt and Gary.
We are a big, happy family. As soon as Dan called him, like, I'm gathering the gang. I don't care what Dan says.
Yeah, it's like one of those American chat shows where you got the host and then you got these strange people on the sofa that I never quite understand why they're there, and they just keep chipping in. That's what Gary is, and Brandt's like, I don't know, Santa Claus in the corner, as I say.
So the Ed McMahon of podcasts has shown up to my right over here. He is from the Portal Gaming Podcast. He is a retailer, so he's going to give us his perspective on how many copies of CoraQuest that his store is going to buy. It is Mr. Brandt Sanderson. You may not recognize him with the giant beard, but nevertheless, welcome to the show.
Howdy, thanks, Jason. Dan, it's pretty good to see you, I suppose. Gary, wake up.
And the Vanna White of the show, who will contribute very, very little, but look pretty doing it. Despite waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning, he has been on my show before. He is also a Connecticut resident. The three of us that are not Dan with a British accent are from Connecticut, so that's why we're a big, happy gaming family. He is Gary Pope. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. And it's been a long time since I've done anything board game related, so I can't really. Yeah, you're right. I can't really contribute anything to this conversation. I mean, the most I can contribute to this conversation is that I know the title of the game.
Yeah, very good. That's good. Have you heard of this new game called Catan, Gary? It came out since you were, after you left board gaming media, but.
I think I've heard of that one, but I'm more familiar with like something like Jenga.
That's
probably the most game I'm probably.
He is devolved. His board gaming has rolled back in his brain.
I think it's interesting that Gary thought that he used to bring something to to his content.
It's been a long time.
The plan today, so we have a double plan, so to speak. The first one is we are going to share, not chill necessarily, but we're going to share about CoraQuest. CoraQuest is a very interesting project. I've taken, as a psychotherapist, I've taken a pretty deep look at it because I intend to I want this game, and I'll get into that in a second, for playing with kids. And then the second part of this discussion, and I think we all have things to contribute, noticing by the gray in all of our beards. We all have kids, and I really do want to explore the question of how to get kids into gaming. So you ask that question gets asked about once a week on any forum you go to. It's like, okay, I want to get my kid into gaming. Recommendation for 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old. We all have experience, for good or ill, getting our children into board games. So we're going to talk about that. But first, CoraQuest.
Yes.
So the question that I like to lead off these interviews with is not necessarily tell me about the game, but tell me why this game needs to exist. What is missing in the board game space that CoraQuest is trying to fill?
There's two reasons why this game needs to exist. The first is a very personal reason, and the second is a wider hobby type reason. The personal reason is it needed to exist because because myself and my daughter wanted to do something creative together, and it was in the middle of lockdown. She was bored. I don't know what your feeling is on this, Jason and Gary and Brandt, but I think the lockdown has been the hardest on preteen children, because preteen children don't have the social contacts in the kind of with the internet and things like that. They're not able to get online with their friends and things like that. They're not able to go out on their own and things and go for walks with people or see people. So in the height of the lockdown, for preteens, the world shrunk to 2 or 3 rooms, basically. And to try and find some joy within that and to get through the drudge of that time was hard for us all, but especially hard for kids, in my opinion.
And just to underscore that from my perspective, the reason why Dan says preteen is because when they're super young, they're going to be with their parents for the most part. They do interact with other people, but having the parents around, they're still getting used to that. When they're teenagers, they want everybody to go away anyway. And they are perfectly happy with playing Among Us for like 18 hours on the internet. You're fine. I'll let you know. When dinner is ready, I'll let you know. When you are a preteen, when you are 6, 7 to 11, around there, not only are you forming yourself in terms of your identity, in terms of the ideas that you have in your head as a person moving forward, you need that larger field of interaction. And the 8-year-olds are already tired of you. As a parent, they don't need all that parent.
That's it. And as I say, also, the internet is a wonderful way of socializing, but usually under 11, you don't have that level of, like my 14-year-old son is chatting to his friends all the time on Xbox Live and things like that. My daughter doesn't have that facility. So anyway, so we just decided that in order to kind of supplement the homeschooling, we'd do something fun as well as the worksheets and stuff. So we started creating a game. It was a game intended just for us. My daughter very much enjoyed watching me play D&D with my friends, enjoyed playing some kind of dungeon crawly games like Zombicide and things like that with me. But it's always been faintly above her head. And the theme has been slightly inappropriate. The mechanics have been slightly too, Zombicide's not particularly complex, but you know what I mean, slightly too complex.
But
all
like
that kind of
chainsaws, cutting down zombies.
Yeah,
and everything.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I mean, and kids like violence. Don't get me wrong. I'm not some. You look at fairy tales; they're full of violence. Kids like violence, but there's ways of framing violence and things like that, I think. Yeah. So we did it for something for us to do. So that's why it needed to exist. Now, it snowballed beyond there, and I'll get into that in a bit, but basically various people kind of encouraged us and inspired me and came on board, and it snowballed and to a point where I thought, this could do with being out in the open. And the reasons for that are that there are very few merry trashy games aimed at families to play together, not aimed at kids particularly, but aimed at parents or guardians or adults to play with the preteen market, kind of 6 to 11 or even higher, really. There's Mice and Mystics, there's Stuffed Fables, and then you kind of run aground. And even Mice and Mystics and Stuffed Fable, the mechanics of those are quite complex within that. They're very good games, and the narrative is fantastic, but there's some quite complex mechanics within that. So I wanted to go even simpler than that into a game where a child can contribute to a greater degree. It helps because we made a cooperative game, so obviously a parent can I keep saying parent, but guardian, you know what I mean? The adult can guide the child through as well. But so in that respect, I think playing together and forging memories is one of the most valuable things gaming's done for me as a parent. And I wanted to contribute to that and kind of fill a niche that isn't being filled, in my opinion. There's lots of dungeon crawlers out there, but they're all dark and grim dark and, and all this stuff. There's no kind of light, jolly, whimsical stuff that's appropriate for kids. And with that in mind, we wanted to make it incredibly accessible for kids. So we started thinking, well, why don't we just use Cora's art for this? And so all the art in CoraQuest is actually done by Cora, all the kids all over the world, to be honest. And Gary has just coloured it in. Now, he's done an amazing job of colouring it in, and it looks fantastic. But Not you, Gary.
I keep on saying whenever you post about. So Gary King is the artist that you are working with.
Yeah.
Whenever you thank Gary King for anything, I'm like, why is Dan thanking Gary Pope for a damn thing?
The easy way of remembering it, Jason, is I will never thank Gary Pope for anything. That's the easy way.
I will never gladly accept it.
If I mention Gary and either in the context of birthdays or just insults, then that's Gary Pope.
There you go.
I can't believe how much y'all have ruined my birthday.
I know. I'm sorry. I've stopped doing it now, Gary, because it kind of beyond the joke. But I can get into that later. About
for those of you who don't know the inside joke, Dan and his partner in crime, Mike DeLisio, would often post on various groups that it was Gary's birthday, whether it was his birthday or not. So you can imagine how old that gets very quickly.
No, it was Dan and I. The two of us were the ones who did it before Mike.
It goes quite deep. There was a period of time where once I was up, I was just idly on the Facebook, and I decided to like one of Gary's posts, and then I decided to go through his entire history and like every single post he's ever made, and that was an incredibly amusing way of tormenting somebody, because obviously he's getting notification after notification.
The crazy thing was that about the Facebook algorithm at that point would also then highlight it on other people's walls when someone else liked something super old. So it's like, okay, now all of a sudden 100 people just saw like this post from like 5 years ago, and they're like, oh, hey Gary, nice photo, a nice video. I'm like, what? It's like, all right. It was all Dan's fault.
It is, and using the algorithm like that I found a load of his past birthday posts and put, oh, happy birthday, Gary. So then everyone else started posting happy birthday because the algorithm put these up to the top. That's where it all started.
So what you're hearing is that CoraQuest was designed by two children.
Yeah, well, that is
one.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Going back to the reason that exists. The other thing we wanted to do is share that creative experience. We found that we loved. There was a point during making it, about 3 or 4 days into it, where Cora turned to me and just said, "I really loved it. I love doing this." You know, she was so excited and so energized by the fact that she was creating something that previously she'd never even considered had been created. Almost, if you see what I mean. That she was empowered enough to create an entire kind of game and system. And she's quite she's an imaginative kid, but she's also. That comes down on the kind of math side of things, you know, the logical, and so she loved the fact that we were working out the mechanics and things like that. And the fact that can be a creative process as well was very exciting to her. So we decided that we wanted to make it customizable, just like in role playing games, you can make your own characters and stuff. You don't really see that in board games. And dungeon crawlers are kind of on that cusp of role play. They're more like kind of tactical role playing games, aren't they? Often dungeon crawlers. So we decided we wanted people to be able to make their own characters and make their own monsters and enemies, and then kind of developed a system where people can make their own stories as well. So basically, we're giving people enough to just play the game out of the box, but then on top of that, if you want to be creative with your child or yourself or whatever, you can basically throw all our stuff out and just have the core mechanics and the core tiles and cards and stuff, and make your own stories, your own worlds, your own heroes, your own monsters for them to battle. A lot of people have said they're going to we've got this web app where you can create a hero card so it looks official, because kids like things looking official, you know what I mean? Well, they do. I remember as a kid drawing something and throwing it away, saying, "Oh, that doesn't look like it does in the book." So I wanted it to look. I mean, that's the other reason for using. I know I'm going all over. That's the other reason for using kids' art, is because it makes it accessible for other children to do. If you see that, you know, it's obviously kids' art. It's coloured in nicely, but it's obviously kids' art. Yeah. And so you can. Well, they've done it. Why can't I do it? Type thing, and there's no impossible standard you have to get to make it fit in. So people are putting using this app to put their family on there. So they say, we're going to, as a family, have our characters in there and go through the dungeon kind of as a family, or the dogs are going to go through there, or whatever. Or the A team, I'm going to do one for all the A team going through a dungeon. But yeah. So Does that answer the question, Jason?
Yeah,
Sorry,
sure.
I get carried away.
You hear the passion on this project. That's definitely one of the things that I wanted to emphasize in this interview with this video. You see the enthusiasm, you see the passion. This is absolutely one of the things I wanted to do to feature the game. Gary, Brandt, please chime in anytime if you have any follow-up questions or anything like that. Gary, you look like you're percolating. Actually, Brandt raised his hand. So go ahead, Brandt.
Well, I was just going to ask about the mechanics. I mean, I know about the armor check, the dice check, the stat analysis. After you do some light calculus, what do you have to do in order to play the game?
There's kind of the two aspects of the game are how the dungeon's created, so how you actually go out and adventure in a dungeon, and then how combat works and things like that. So how you adventure in a dungeon is you've got a number of square tiles. You pick a tile off the top of it's a card actually, but you pick the card off the top of the deck and put it down and twist it around, and that's how the dungeon gets laid out. And within that pile, there's 4 story tiles, so they've still got a dungeon on them, but they've also got an associated bit of text you can read out. So you bring one out, and it might the first adventure is a backpack with a load of clues on what's happened to these gnomes that you're going to find, and then there's a trap come out a bit later on, and then right to the 4th one, that's where the big baddie comes out. But we don't actually the way people, there's like 12 so far, there'll hopefully be more of these story tiles, and they're all kind of a bit like Dixit. They could be interpreted in lots of multiple different ways. So just because this one of this tile has a broken table with a sword on it, that's where the snake is in one of the adventures. But it could also be where you meet an old wizard woman, or you can create your own stories around that. So the story's kind of spaced out along this dungeon as you explore. Now the combat's just really easy.
Mice and Mystics, just to interrupt, Mice and Mystics does something similar where they have tiles, and they're kind of like, they can be like, they feature in multiple adventures.
Yeah.
So like here you're escaping from the owl, and here you're running towards the owl for some reason. Right.
That's it. Yeah, and you can pace the story by a bit like Pandemic. You shuffle, you split the cards into 4, then shuffle one of these story cards, and then reassemble the deck type stuff. The combat's dead easy basically. You have a base stat, which is a red dice, which is a dice with 3 of the sides have got success on them, and then you have a weapon usually, which has got a white dice, it's got 2 successes on, and you roll the dice. If you roll 2 successes, you do 2 damage. If you roll 1 success, you do 1 damage. If you roll no successes, we got some feedback that some kids struggle a little bit with rolling nothing,
right?
And so what we do is you've got a determine mechanic. So you flip your card over, and next turn you really want to hit this thing. So you roll more dice. Right. So there's a little reward for missing, if you see what I mean. You're going to be better next time, and that helps some kids who struggle with disappointment. It's meant to help them just cope with that a little bit better. So it's yeah. Good. And then as you go through the dungeon, you pick up treasure, and you get better combinations of dice and special abilities and stuff like that. But it's all really simple, basic stuff. It's a very simple game.
So there's custom dice, or like not custom dice.
Custom
like
dice. Yeah.
Upgradable, different versions of dice you can bring. In. Okay.
Yeah.
Am I ever going to get to the point where I'm doing this? This is my favorite thing to do in any game.
I think the most dice you're going to likely to be rolling is 5.
Oh,
I think 5 dice.
They better be big.
Yeah. Usually you're rolling 2, I'm afraid, but yeah, you just don't want the monsters to be rolling. Now that's when you start worrying.
All right, I got a question. As a ex gamer myself, I was very much of high fashion and luxury items with all my games. Will this Kickstarter involve any metallic coins or anything extremely flashy and over the top and completely unnecessary added to it?
No, other than the app. But the thing that
app is pretty cool. I like the app a lot.
The app's awesome. The app's awesome. And we're hoping to get one for the monsters as well, so you can create your own monsters and have them printed out coolly as well. No, there are a few stretch goals that are really awesome, to be fair. But one of my big beliefs about family games and all gaming, in actual fact, and I feel very strongly about this, is one: there's a number of things that keep people out of gaming. And there's a number of of cliques of discriminatory type, things that keep people out of gaming. One of them is about income level, and my big belief about gaming is that the higher we go up the ridiculous Kickstarter-y, $100 for a game type thing, the more we exclude people, and we make it a preserve of the middle classes, really.
Right.
And so
the petit bourgeois.
Exactly, and so the little peas in French? I can't remember. Anyway, so I believe strongly that games should be affordable, and so we wanted to make this affordable. Now we're dealing with low print runs and stuff, so it's not as cheap as if Game Right did it or whatever. But it's £30 is what we're aiming at, which I think is about $35 to $40 type
40-ish dollars.
Yeah. So it's I wish it was cheaper, but it can't be because of minimum print numbers and all that kind of stuff, and shipping. But
I'm gonna do a podcast on shit. One of these days I will have an expert to do a podcast. People have no idea what it entailed.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, I will tell you there's where people backing through a retail store could be helpful, because if the copies come to a retail store and then they pick up theirs, their shipping cost is
that's true. That is
built
true
in there, that
is true. It's not the shipping. It's not the shipping to an individual. That's the big cost. It's the shipping to the hubs.
Yeah.
Because shipping to the individual, people tend to pay, postage on top, but you can't charge people for shipping from China whatever they're called.
I need to do that podcast. People need to know.
They don't. Well, don't ask me, because I'm not. The person who's dealing with that kind of thing is my friend Mark Cook, who used to be the CEO of Hush Hush Games until stuff happened with that. Nothing to do with him. He just the company was dissolved, and then by the owner, and then he now works for the plastics soldier company, I think it's called. But he's a project manager for board games, and that's what he does professionally. So he's managing all that side of things, which is good, because I don't mind telling you, if he wasn't, you probably, it wouldn't go smoothly, because I'm not the most business-minded person.
We just went over this. The two children designing games.
Exactly. I think that would be too much for me, basically, handling that on top of everything else. That's ultimately what it is. So he's very kindly come on board, so that's really, really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about how, COVID and kids of this age being home and being together, and having a game to kind of play with kids. And I think as gamers, sometimes we think, oh, what could I play with my kids? But when I was growing up, it was my siblings and I playing. Like my brother would teach us the game, or I would teach my friends the game. So what about kids playing this game with other kids? It sounds like it's very accessible for kids to play on their own.
Yeah. I think it depends on how young that kid is, to be honest, and depends. I wouldn't say you put it down in front of a bunch of 6-year-olds and let them get on with it, because that won't work. But I think once the child has played it, and Cora's played it solo as well when she's been bored, she's had to go at it solo. So yeah, no, it is accessible, but it's a. I suppose my audience is the audience I'm aiming for is gamers who game with their children, to be honest, if I'm absolutely honest, because there is a level of complexity. It's as simple as I can make a dungeon crawler, but you can't get away from a line of sight. You can't get away, all that kind of stuff. You can only simplify it so much. So 6-year-olds, I wouldn't thought could play it together. 10-year-olds.
How did you handle line of sight? That is like the question to ask of a dungeon crawler. If line of sight is crappy, then I know that I'm in for a bad time.
Yeah, it's really tricky, because there's no you look at it and there's no good way of doing line of sight. Now we had two options. We had a number of options, but what we're doing is any point within the square. If you can draw a line to any point within the other square, then you can see them, and the only thing that block it is other characters and walls.
Right.
We were thinking about, well, shall we just say, if you're within so many spaces, and not worry about line of sight, and make it really, really simple, or have just kind of, if you're off, and you can draw an orthogonal or diagonal line along squares. Then you can do it, and then but that mean that people could hide in the weird gaps and stuff. And the person who made the ultimate decision on that was Cora, actually. Mm-hmm. So I gave her three main options, and she picked that one because she felt that was a logical one. any point in your square, so you can turn around the corner and go Phew, or whatever. But yeah, line of sight's not easy. It's really, I suppose, unmatched do it very well, but you have to have a really weird board when you've got unmatched.
You can't do unmatched is the point-to-point system, so that's instead you could do distance based with that. If you're going to do squares, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Or hexes or whatever it is.
Yeah. So kids could play it together, but really, my envisaging is a family. The families play it together.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, so I think in terms of the basic,
Gary's got a question.
Gary has no question.
Jason's not going to get to his next point.
Oh no, you go to your next point.
I have no next point. Go ahead, Gary.
All right. So what I was going to say was that with Dice Tower going on right now with their Kickstarter and stuff like that, is CoraQuest going to make an appearance as a promo, as like a late Kickstarter promo or anything like that? Are we expected for any surprises like that down the line?
No. Well, one of the stretch goals is me doing a top 100, Gary. So I can tell you now what number one.
Yeah, no one cares about that though.
Everyone cares about that. In fact, 1 to 100 is going to be CoraQuest, just said in different accents. I've prepared a list of accents to use, and
how many countries? CoraQuest, Zimbabwe, CoraQuest, Bhutan.
That's it. No, it's not, because I nearly offered to Tom, but I thought, well, it hasn't actually funded. That's a bit previous, really. You might not fund, so they might end up.
That'd be so awkward.
Yeah.
It's just hey, Tom, we have we're going to give you guys 100 promo cards for your Kickstarter. It's like, hey, Tom, by the way.
Yeah. Although I could give him some Huddersfield timeline promos.
Oh my goodness!
You still have those?
I've got look at how many I've got, Gary. For some reason, no one wants them. I don't know why.
For some reason.
These are promos that I had. I went through a phase where I was for a joke trying to get designers to set their games in Huddersfield. So
one, that was not a phase. Two, it was not a joke.
a pretend joke. Yeah.
One of those passive aggressive jokes that's not really a joke. It's like I really mean.
I love these timeline things. Yeah. So if anyone wants any of them, they can just get in contact with me and
pay the VAT. Pay all that.
Just throw those in the first 100 copies of CoraQuest.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that, but then you'd have to be shipped to me, and then I ship them out. It's like, well, that would be quite costly.
Oh, yeah.
What, they're not coming from your basement? That's not where CoraQuest is made? What?
We're going to ship the 3 copies we sell out, and then the rest are going to go into my basement. Yeah. Yeah. At least these are small. If we got loads of CoraQuest left over, it's going to be a lot. A couple of hundred is going to be a lot more than just this little box. So we'll see what happens.
For the podcast listeners, Dan is holding up little boxes with promos all over the place. So if you are interested in a promo for Timeline, which is an excellent little trivia-esque game, or some other, I think there is Huddersfield Monopoly floating around there somewhere. There's a lot of Huddersfield, England. That is.
I'm not sure there is any other Huddersfields. It's not like Halifax and I don't know.
So out of curiosity, though, with COVID going on right now or anything like that, and I know you're not handling the logistics and stuff like that, but have you had your toe in it enough to notice any of the different things that COVID's been causing issues with when it comes to logistics and shipping and timeline and all that stuff?
There's massive problems with shipping at the moment, which is kind of semi-indirectly related to COVID. It's not COVID restrictions that's causing it. It's the lack of shipping containers in China and all sorts of stuff going on. I think, I was talking to Frank West, who's the designer of Isle of Cats, who's a very nice man, who's given me some great advice. And he was saying, it's almost gone up. It's almost tripled or even quadrupled the cost of getting a container from China to another country, especially the UK, because at the UK we've got loads of Brexit stuff going on as well, and we've got some changes to our VAT laws and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a nightmare at the moment. Fortunately, I'm hoping by the time CoraQuest actually ships, it's going to be November. So I'm hoping a lot of that will settle down. And we've another reason why the price is more than I'd love it to be is because we had to what I don't want to do is get ourselves into a situation where we're begging back to backers and things like that. So we've built in a contingency plan, a contingency fund of 20%, just to make sure we're covered in case things still are awful. So yeah, I think there's been a massive impact on shipping with COVID, and it's really bad at the moment apparently.
Oh, it sounds like we should. Yeah.
No, I'm saying it was a massive bottleneck. Like, the shipping, you don't realize, like, it really, like, most of the games we love, like, you see Brandt and I have these games and everything. Like, imagine one ship. And if you don't have the staff that's there for that one ship, then that is going to get delayed a lot.
Yeah.
What was the game that the boxes all fell in the ocean?
Oh, One Deck. One Deck Galaxy, I think.
Yeah.
Chris
that would be bad.
Awful.
That would be bad.
Yeah, I keep on interrupting Gary. I'm so disrespectful to Gary. Dan is rubbing off on me how disrespectful I'm being to Gary.
No, it's no problem at all. So it sounded like from what you were saying that according to your logistics and stuff like that, we should be getting CoraQuest in our hands in December around the holidays, right?
Yeah, that's a plan and ready for Christmas. I mean, obviously, we've all done Kickstarter. We all know that may not happen.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
But
no one knew.
Well, who knows? But again, we've tried to build in a buffer zone there. But who knows? With world events as they are, who knows what's going to happen? And things just come up. And if you're a small producer, the manufacturers can often bump you back to the back of the line and things like that. Apparently, if they've got a new big order from Asmodee coming, they will prioritize Asmodee because they see them as repeat customers rather than me, who'll be a one-off, which is completely fair enough because that's accurate.
But you're not building an empire there, Dan? You're not going to...
No, I have no interest in becoming a publisher at all. If this entire experience has taught me anything, it's that I'm very ambitious and very enthusiastic for this project. But after this is done, well, you may see an expansion, or just we're moving CoraQuest to the swamps or something like that. Just to get some more stuff out there. But yeah, this is no. Yeah. I'm happy being a nurse. I'm all right. I don't want to be a board game publisher. Yeah.
So, question. What was it? It just left me.
This is why we disrespect you, Gary. This is why I feel free to interrupt you.
You are awful at this, Gary.
I remembered it now. So, going back to what Brad said in terms of the accessibility to the kids and stuff like that, how you said it's not ideal for 6-year-olds, but it's more for like parents with kids and stuff like that. As a parent, and also as a parent that hates reading rule books and pretty much does not play games unless Brandt's teaching me, or if there's a watch it play video or something like that, how easy would it be to actually teach this game? Is this one of those games where it's like I could pull it out of the box and probably read the rules within maybe 10 minutes and then teach the kids, or is it like, no, you probably need a little bit more time to that to figure out things and stuff?
No, it's pretty easy. I think 10 minutes you could get through the rule book and learn it. If you've played any kind of these games, a lot of the stuff in the rule book is going over the stuff that you already know. Do you know what I mean? There's various conventions that
how to roll a dice.
Yeah, well, I don't actually say get it in your hand and roll it, but yeah.
What is your opinion on dice on the table? There was a massive Twitter thread about if the dice falls off the table, it no longer counts, and someone had a big problem with that. They're like, no, it should count. I don't know what your opinion on that is.
Unless you're playing a solo game or a cooperative, if it falls off the table, it doesn't count. If you're playing a solo game or cooperative, it completely depends on what that result was to whether it counts or not. That's my view on it.
Excellent. I'm sure that'll be in the rule book.
Yeah. Maybe I should put that in the rule book. That'd be funny.
Absolutely. I'm here all day. I got more.
It's pretty accessible. And it's very, teaching it is also easy because you can actually teach as you go along.
Okay.
Generally, as long as one person knows the rules, you can just get, and you'll pick it up within 5 or 10 minutes as you play it type stuff.
So it sounds like it's no different than Kingdom Death Monster then.
Very similar to Kingdom Death Monster. A lot of the same iconography, a lot of the same imagery as Kingdom Death Monster, the same kind of themes, overriding themes. I think it's important
the same size booth at a Gen Con or Essen.
Yeah. Same price point as well. So yeah. So.
I cannot wait for the 3-breasted teacher from Doom or something.
Well, you can create it if you want. You can use the character creation stuff to create that. If that's what you're really into, Jason, I'm fine with it. As long as you keep it in the privacy of your own house. Yeah.
I was going to say you said 30 pounds, but Gloomhaven was only 22 pounds, I thought. So that's a big gain.
Yeah. Those standees, man, they weigh a bit. Solid gold.
Yeah, which so does this game include it? I haven't. Like I said, I know nothing.
No, it's fine, man. It's fine, man. You just turn up, Gary. That's all right. He hasn't even got dressed, ladies and gentlemen. If you listen to the podcast, he's still in his pajamas. It's a disgrace.
We're lucky. I actually had to go let my dog out, and we're actually all very fortunate right now that I actually had on pants to begin with. So let's just thank God on that one. But back to the question. So does this game include standees or anything like that? Like, how are you taking care of the minis and not only that, like, you know how you're going to be able to create characters and stuff like that? How is that going to be integrated into like the standees besides just the cards and stuff, or is it just like very?
It's almost like I paid you, Gary. It's almost like I paid you. Well done. That's
He's
a great
plant.
question.
I know nothing. I know nothing.
That is why Dan he insisted on Gary Pope being on the show. It's like, why him? He's nothing contributed. Dan's like, don't worry.
It is all standees. There's quite a few standees in the box. I think off the top of my head, there's about 20, maybe 25. Well, there's two reasons why we haven't gone for minis. I don't know anybody who can make minis, and I can't afford minis, and it would take the money above where I'd be comfortable being. But also, because we've got this ethos of creativity and things like that, a kid can't make their own mini, but a kid can definitely make their own standee. And the app we've got actually will print out the character card, but also prints out a standee of that same image as well.
Wow.
So that again encourages kids to make their own stuff. So I think standees are the perfect. I know I like minis as well, but standees are the perfect thing because I think it allows access. The whole game is about allowing access to get under the hood and play with it yourself. Mm-hmm. And easy access so a kid can get under the hood and play with it themselves as well. And so standees is the perfect way to go for that. A lot of people have been saying, oh, you should do Dulux minis and all that kind of stuff, and minis sell. It's like, yeah, but it goes against the ethos of the game, so no.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like that you should add minis as a Kickstarter goal if you reach like $1 million.
Do an exclusive add-on.
Just make it that like $1 million goal.
$1 million goal. Yeah. Yeah, I could exclusive. No, it's not going to happen. I would love minis made out of Cora's drawings, which would be awesome. It'd be fantastic for her to have, but I'm also very keen to be realistic within this project.
Absolutely.
And no, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen, Gary.
Go ahead, Brandt.
Oh, I didn't have anything. I'm sorry.
Oh, you were revved up, but maybe it was just to make comment, just to be a peanut gallery over there.
He's excited to be near me, isn't he? That's what it is.
I can't wait for those standees.
I can't wait to paint my standees.
They look awesome, though. They look absolutely charming. I mean, one of the things about using the kids' game as the kids' art as another thing. And sorry, another thing that I feel very passionate about is a lot of kids' games are what adults believe kids like.
Okay. Yes.
And I think there's lots of cutesiness and just stuff that adults believe that children should like rather than what children actually do like. And I feel bad for keeping commenting. I've said it a few times. And this guy was coming from completely the right place, but he commented on one of my videos about CoraQuest. Why haven't you got things like pillows and frisbees and lightsabers and stuff that kids would like to fight with? And it's like, well, I know where you're coming from, and you know, he's a very, very nice guy. I'm not putting it down on him, but you've asked Cora that, she's like, well, swords are cool. And it's like, yes, swords are cool. You know what I mean? so it's you know, and fair enough, the fantasy tropes are a bit tired for adults and grown-ups and things like that. But an 8-year-old who's only just watched Lord of the Rings for the first time, that's not a tired trope. That's incredibly exciting. So I reject a little bit, you know, the need to have teddy bears in it and things like that because adults tend to misjudge what kids like at various different ages, I think, and they feel they're into younger things than they actually are. A child, from my experience, I don't know about you guys, but my experience is my kids have always watched TV programs that kind of one age bracket up for them, so that the slight they don't quite get, but they like watching it because it makes them feel grown up. And then when they are the right age, that Thomas the Tank Engine or whatever is aimed at, and you try and show it, and they go, no, that's for babies. I'm into iCarly now or whatever. So kids.
iCarly, she's like 35.
All right. I've got a 17-year-old girl back there, and she used to watch iCarly. That's what I'm thinking of. But she used to watch iCarly when she was like 6 or 7, and it's not really that's not the aim, or theoretically that's not the aim. But in actual fact, kids like what they like, and adults often don't quite understand what kids do want, I think, and put their ideas on them.
That actually transitions perfectly. Gary, you are a plant. Very good, Gary. It transitions perfectly to the discussion I want to have, which is how adults can get kids into games in general. And CoraQuest is a game that is designed for that. And one of the points, and you've made this multiple times, I've always remembered this, how you've made that point. Even a broken clock is...
How dare you! I am internationally renowned as the world's expert in children's gaming.
It's true.
No, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
The point is so good. I've carried it with me for years and years. Like in my therapy, reaching with kids, there is an assumption that you have to kind of give them the cutesy stuff and give them the teddy bears and the Care Bear stare or whatever. Speaking of old stuff, we're all old. Look at our beards.
Yeah. We've all got
the SpongeBob and the Steven Universe, and that stuff is cool. But I mean, that not necessarily, right? I mean, so I think obviously you've had a lot to say. I mean, I don't know if you've had experiences, because Gary, just to lay our cards on the table, we're all taking care of kids, right, as parents and parental figures.
Yeah.
So then Brandt, I should look at your name. I have your name right there. I just looked up the nameplate.
I always forget his name as well. I keep wanting to call him St. Nicholas. That's what I call him.
I was actually thinking, Jason, I was actually thinking that when we were talking about Isle of Cats, I think that's the last game we played together. Didn't you come over and we played Isle of Cats?
That was so I think that was the last time.
That would have been like February. Yeah, January. That's crazy.
Yep. So you have your own kids. Yep. Zephyra plays games. I think she's 8 or 9 or somewhere around there.
11.
11. Okay. All right. So
she's 11 now? God.
Yeah. It's been a long time, Gary.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
Plays games consistently with you, has done so the entire time. Brian has stayed with you. Brian is the retailer. They help run the store together. Brian has a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5 at this point.
Almost 6 next month.
Oh my God. It's been too long, people. And Gary has some children that has been acquired into his home, 3 and 5. So we all have experience, exposing people to stuff. And we'll start here talking about pitching games and thinking that we need to do the cutesy stuff in order to bring, kids into the orbit. And I wanted to hear, Brandt and Gary, your experience with that.
So my experience so far has been a pretty simple one. It's pretty much I will play a game with my girlfriend, and the kids will then naturally get interested. And that's kind of the way I've learned how to not force things onto kids, and also not to make them feel like I'm forcing them to do things that I want them to do things my way and to adopt my hobbies and stuff like that. It's more along the lines of hey, I'm going to do these things around them, and if they're interested in it, then they'll come over and ask questions and they get themselves involved with it. It's actually been very rare when we would slap down a game like, hey, as a family, we're playing this right now because that's what we're going to be doing. I think I've done that maybe twice or something like that. But also these times when I'm doing it is also out of, I've noticed interest. They're oh, I kind of want to play a game. And I'm hey, because you said you want to play a game last week, I remembered and I'm holding you up to that. So we're going to play a game right now. So, but that's only happened a couple times. And, but yeah, that's pretty much the way I've been getting these two over here into games here and there. So in other hobbies, of course, but because I don't want to focus just on board games. But obviously,
Yeah, sure. It's
everyone
every
agrees
game
with
that like we make the division as adults, and that's another thing I want to talk about. We divide board games and tabletop games and video game. It's all games to them, and we're the ones teaching them. So like we don't need to teach them that right away. It's like they need to play board games right now. They don't. Just play whatever they'll be drawn to. Another thing, speaking of the whole adult theming thing, I think you told me this, Gary, about like your kids would kind of go into your Blood Rage box and play with the minis.
Oh, ooh, I muted myself. So with that one, yeah, that was I now get why everyone else gets annoyed with their kids going into their games, because especially my Blood Rage minis, they were painted and everything by a friend of mine, and Gwen, she like did such a ridiculously good job where I was like, no, like if there's one box for you to go into and look into, not Blood Rage. So yeah, that was also a learning process in terms of like taking care and being considerate of things that are not yours and stuff like that, because that was definitely one of those moments of like literal fear. It's like, no, this is the nightmare that everyone talks about.
You have to give them a bath and use a toothbrush to get them clean. That's what I say.
Breaking it. I'm worried about breaking it. Let alone getting it messed up and dirty and stuff like that. That's like on the low tier issues. I'm up at breaking at this point.
Chewing it. Yeah.
What about you, Brandt? Getting your kids into games?
Yeah. So the biggest thing to start with is just every kid is different, which I think we all realize that. But there's several things. So my oldest, 11, and I got 3 different kids I'll go through here actually. For her, it's very much like, what do you want to play? I have to drop the what do I want to play and what do you want to play? So, she'll decide, I really want to play that. She really likes to repeat games, which is funny, like with doing reviewing and content and stuff. It's like, I don't want to repeat a game. What is that all about? We played that. I reviewed that 3 turns in. This is over.
Brandt used to get mad at me because I would be playing a game and then I would like midway through the game I'd launch BG and like rating right there. And he's like, "Why would you rate this game?"
It's like, man, we haven't even finished. But so that's big for her. So some things that we have wanted to do, like with COVID. So we'll do a thing where it's like, hey, we're all gonna pick one thing we want to do today. Right. So they know I'm going to pick a board game, but then it's like, you want to do, a cooking project and you want to do that. So we all pick something we're going to do. We did that with Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. I've actually gone to a little bit of bribery. Like, hey, every game you play, there's some kind of reward for finishing that game. So that's kind of got us. And then as we've played more, people have been like, wow, this is really fun, because they get used to the game, playing it a bunch of times. And then we also have a now 6-year-old. So with her, it's very themed. It's very on point. So she likes those kind of things. She likes the Haba games with unicorns. She's madly crazed with Disney princesses. So there's this Disney princess cupcake game that everybody should own. It is amazing. It's like these rubber cupcakes that you can rebuild, and it's phenomenal. And so that is huge for her. So she's very into theme and tactile.
The
both of them,
cupcake party game, people. That is an indispensable tool in my chest.
Actually, I think your daughter played with it at our house. Yep. So for them, also length is a huge thing for both of them. I mean, 60 minutes is a long time. So there's for now. Now the third kid, though, as you alluded to, Brian's son, who's almost 6. So they lived with us for 19 months and finally got to buy a house last month and moved out. So he was around a lot. And of course, I was teaching from home. Yes, congratulations to them. He is a gamer. He's ready. So he's like, what are you playing? And I'm like, Gaia Project. Okay, I'll play. Like, he's in. He's just ready to go. So I played Alter Quest with him one morning. Wow. Only the 2 of us were awake, and we played through Alter Quest, and he's down. Like, let's do it.
Blimey.
I had to kind of tell him what's happening and what's going on, but so it was kind of more what you were saying, Dan. He just wanted to play those games that he saw us playing. He wanted to be part of that, and that was a big thing for him. But he still hit that barrier, and then very much what Gary was alluding to, he would say, okay, we're done. Now can I play with the game? That was what he would say so often. Can I just play with the pieces in terms of all that? So
right. I think.
Real quick, go back to shilling really quickly. Dan, how long is CoraQuest?
Well, that I was just thinking that it's about between 45 to 60 minutes, and you know, that's the other thing to say. You know, every game has an audience, and many kids are just, you know, 10, 15 minutes and then that's it. And I would never suggest pushing something like that on them. So you know your own kid, don't you? Really, you know your own kid. So yeah, about 45 to 60 minutes.
Right. To go to Brandt's point about princesses, that like that's obviously cutesy stuff to draw a kid in, but I find that when it's the cutesy stuff, they need to be really emotionally invested in it. Like if your kid loves stuffed animals, then fine, you can give them stuffed animals.
Oh yeah.
If your kid loves princesses or unicorns or whatever, then go cutesy. I don't think the cutesy stuff just on its own, you know, like you can't just present something colorful. Right. And I think that, not that there's been a ton in the board gaming space, but like I think when board games kind of dip in that space, it tends to be that kind of like default cutesy. And I just, you know, just give them, you know, give them the real stuff. I mean, give them
a sword,
give them a bow and arrow, give them a giant 3-breasted monster, whatever they want.
All right, I think we overstepped that.
Yeah.
Well, take it down to Dan Hughes as the villain.
Well, I think every house should have a statue of me in it. That's completely separate. That's a completely separate matter. A lot of people ask me what to do to get young kids into gaming. And the first thing as we all said here, every kid's different, and some kids aren't gamers, you know, and sometimes, and you always have to accept that, because what you're going to find if you try and push a non-gamer into gaming, you're going to get into a point where they're not taking the turns, they're distracted, you're going to have to start, and then you start getting cross, you start disciplining, and that drives them even further away, and you know, it's if a kid doesn't enjoy games, then they're not a mini you. A kid isn't something that you get to dictate what they like. You know, I object to when babies are born and things like that. You know, it was like, yeah, and they're going to love Star Wars like I do, and they're going to love board gaming like I do. It's like, no, they're going to be a human being who might like the same things as you, but I certainly don't have the same hobbies as my dad did. So anyway, that's beside the point. I find that buying young kids, 3, 4, 5, what I always suggest is buying very, very cheap games from thrift stores, not buying every Habba game, you know, and spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars or pounds on it. Go to a thrift store, you know, sweep the game shelf into your bag and go out for a tenner. And then see if they enjoy gaming, and B, what kind of things they do enjoy, what the kind of lengths are they enjoy, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's loads of good. And at that age, it's all either memory game or roll and move, and that's fine as well. You can't get too snobby about that. The reason memory games and roll and moves games work is because kids have a chance of winning it, and especially young kids. And so you don't have to play down, and you can you know, you can learn how games work while still having a chance of winning. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I mean, just the general idea of getting kids into gaming, that's a good suggestion. I didn't think of that. But that makes all the sense in the world.
That's what I did with my kids. I just bought all the cheap games from even kind of Game of Life and that kind of, you know, anything, just to, it doesn't matter if they don't like it doesn't matter if you get wrecked, you know, you just experiment, and then once you kind of got the idea that they enjoy this thing, then you can start spending the money, not as soon as they're born, buy an entire back catalogue of Habba, which some people do.
And that is also a very good point on the whole thrift store thing, because I actually did that myself, unbeknownst to me. I didn't even notice I did that, but I got like a whole bunch of old school games like Jenga, Connect 4. They were like $1, $2 each and stuff like that. And those games actually probably worked bigger wonders than most of the more recent new games. Like no offense to them, by the way, like what was it, Sleeping Gambit or Sleeping Queen or whatever.
Sleeping Queens. It's a good one though, that one.
Yeah, these are all good games that my kids have actually enjoyed and played several times at this point. But the ones that got them really into it were the ones like Jenga, Connect 4, and you hit the nail around this you hit the hammer around the nail.
Something
where the kids actually need to kind of win in a game to also get them more interested in it. Like for example, I don't remember I'd never seen one of my kids, the youngest one, so excited when he beat me at Connect 4. And it was completely I was legit trying, y'all, and he actually randomly beat me, and I was just like, wait, how did this just happen? And I've never seen this kid more excited playing a game before, because I was actually trying super hard to not let them win. I was like, you know, I'm gonna put my foot down this one time right here. I'm just gonna let them not win any games. But then next time, I'm going to be like, oh, wait a second, I got better at the game, and now I'm actually beating him. But no, he actually beat me, and I was like, oh.
Also, I wanted to mention, if you have a quality local game store like the Portal in Manchester, Connecticut, you could look for the used games rack and also look up games there at your retailer.
And have somebody recommend games to you as well, because that's a big thing as well.
Yes, last time I was actually at the Portal, Brian actually recommended me a bunch of really good games for kids. He got me, I'm having a brain fart. I can't look at my shelf right now, but he got me a couple really good ones. I got Ice Cold, which the kids been liking a lot. And he also recommended, there was a memory game. How come I can't remember the name of it? It's like
You're not very good at it then, Gary.
You lost the game before you even played.
I don't know if you remember, Gary, when we were together in Dice Tower Corner, the award ceremony, and Ice Cool won the award, and I was being very disparaging. I really don't like Ice Cool. I think it's rubbish. I was making you laugh by insulting the people's choices. But anyway.
You are so wrong. I love Ice Cool. That game is amazing.
I don't like flicking games. I don't like flicking games.
Flicking,
I can't flick. So,
so then, actually, this is
everyone, Dan just flipped off the camera.
I did not. That's a lie.
You're listening to the podcast.
Actually, and this is one I want to make sure I hit this point. I think we'll end here. Is you mentioned, Dan, like kind of a snobbery attitude, and I feel like that is such a low key important barrier for parents to get open games to their kids, because I think there's like a little bit of a snobby attitude where it's like, okay, I want to get my kid into quote unquote real games. So like people ask that question. It's like, how can I get them into games? But really what they mean is, how do I get them into my games played my way with the official rules? And, you know, and I want to get people into there. And like, I get that question. You want to get kids in the game, but like to get to that point, man, you know, I mean, you have to be flexible with this stuff. Like you can't, like, you have to, like, you know, be able to fudge rules. And like, you know, gamers, we can't stand house rules. No, don't review a game if you're basing it on the house rules. It's not legitimate. And it's like, when it comes to kids, it's almost all house rules. I mean, tell me your impression about that, Dan.
Yeah, well, I think it's very key to remember the question, how can I get my kids into games, should really be, how can I provide the enjoyment to my children that the games give to me, not how can I get my kids to play my games with me so I have someone to play against. That's key. I think it's about the pleasure. You want to transfer the pleasure you take from games to your children and give them the pleasure. And so you have to be adaptable. You have to, and it does frustrate me sometimes when I see, you know, people saying, "Oh, I you know, I play Agricola with my 2-year-old and all that kind of stuff." It's just like, we all know those parents, don't we?
As someone who has a 2-year-old.
Hey, it's got minis. There's those Agricola minis. Have you seen those from like WizKids or whatever?
And that's fine. If you play,
got a leg up on CoraQuest for sure.
Oh yeah. Agricola. And if you do play Agricola with your kid, and what it is you bringing the rules right down and just moving the things around and letting them feel part of it, then that's absolutely fine. But if you're sitting there wanting your kid to be there for you, not the game to be there for your kid, I think is what I'm saying. I got confused in myself there. I can't even remember the question, to be honest.
Well, that's why I think playing easy modes or playing co-ops, like play co-op on easy mode and let the kid make all the decisions. Don't even suggest anything to them. Like let them do that. You know, I'm just thinking of games that have added them, and these aren't necessarily games for kids, but like the Lord of the Rings with Journeys to Middle Earth, they added like a story mode where it's not focused on how hard will the game be, but can you get through the story? You know, there's that element. I obviously play way too much Marvel Champions, but they have a mode where it's like you just fight level 1 of the villain. It's probably going to be really easy, but you get that experience of playing the game without all that overhead of the length of the game and those kind of things. So same with a co-op, doing a co-op and they're like, what do you think I should do? I don't know. What do you think you should do? What would be a good choice? Even if you let them talk it out, that's really like teaching them to game, teaching them to make those decisions.
Oh, that's a really good point. And I mean, something I would add to this is that it's a little bit out of the box thinking. Especially, it's also kind of not really as possible during COVID. But one thing I highly suggest is for you to just be playing with other people. This serves two purposes. One, you get your satisfaction of actually wanting to play your games and do things your way and just get it out, so that then by the time you're playing with your kids, you don't need to fill that satisfaction of. Because if that's the only time you're playing games is when you're kids, then you're going to be like, oh, well, I wanted to play Gloomhaven today, but like he's 3.
He wants to play Unicorn Glitter Luck.
Yeah. So playing with other people serves that purpose. It gets it out of your system, so then you could do so that when you're playing with your kid, you could do the things that you hate doing. No, I'm joking. But the second thing that it serves the purpose of is that it also gives you practice. And it sounds kind of weird saying this, but for example, something that I do a lot, actually, I used to not do this, but now more recently 1,000% do this, is that whenever I show up to game nights and stuff like that, I have no plan. I have no agenda that I need to fill or anything like that. It's just like drop a game in front of me and I'll play whatever it is. If you do that a lot and you get used to doing that more often, it becomes incredibly easy when you're playing with kids to then just play whatever they want, whatever fits the situation and whatever is appropriate at the time, as opposed to always needing to play the latest game or the extreme rule intensive game, stuff like that. So I highly suggest playing with people that are not your kids. That kind of helps.
I know you're trying to wrap up, Jason, which is why I'm trying to sabotage you. But the other thing I just wanted to, Gary just reminded me of is I run a kids board game club as well. I did during the COVID, before COVID, where preteen kids got together. And one thing I found is that kids who don't normally like playing board games with their parents will definitely want to play board games with other kids. So if you play board games when your kids' friends come over, and they'll be excited because they'll see all these board games and go, oh yeah, that's fantastic. Then that's another good way of getting kids into good gaming. If you've got their peers and their friends playing with them as well, they'll very much enjoy that more than they would do just playing against you, because the dynamic's different. You can try not to be, but it always is.
I feel really strongly about this because I see it like. I see a lot of kids get kind of turned off by people, we're going to play Monopoly, we're going to play this, and this, and we're going to stay here for 3 hours, and we're going to enjoy the day. And, like adults who kind of have, this is the right way to game. And, I'm going to bring them in to how I'm playing. And it's like, I use games in therapy all the time. Going to use CoraQuest in therapy, so to bring it all back. And the reason I was so interested in CoraQuest, I should have probably let off with this, but whatever. Because right now my go-to adventure game is Mice and Mystics, and I house rule the living daylights out of that game just for us to be able to get it in 45 minutes, but just for the access. And, I have to be able to house rule. I can't like be invested in like, okay, I want to play it my way. Like I feel like with so many games, like the only way to give the access is to kind of break down the barrier, house rule or whatever. And, just as a closing kind of thing about CoraQuest, like access. Is that kind of the idea there, Dan? Yeah,
well, as I say, it wants to be as accessible as humanly possible. We've tried to simplify everything down to the absolute core of it, while still having an exciting, fun game to play. It's all about access, and all about encouraging people that the rule book is theirs and they do with it what they want. I've seen a few threads recently where it said, I think it's disrespectful for the designer to house rule stuff. It's like, no, not at all. You do, this is your game. You bought it. You change it because that's what I want. I want you to change it.
Tell that to a gamer.
It's in the book. I'll put it in the book. That's another thing I'll put in the book. Yeah. Change. It's in there. It's in there all over it. Yeah.
All right, so I have all my questions. I've addressed the things that I wanted to address. My gentlemen, my people from Connecticut, any last words or thoughts or anything like that before we close?
It's not my birthday. It never was. It never will be.
I was about to say happy birthday, Gary. It was like on my lips. I was waiting for the actual close. I can't lie. The entire time. I'm like,
stole it from you. Stole it.
Yes.
Here I thought they were being serious about CoraQuest, and they're plotting to each other about birthdays. What have I done?
It's the only reason I agreed to come on. Never mind birthday. Never mind CoraQuest. It's all about wishing Gary a very happy birthday, Gary.
Happy birthday.
Just go out and buy CoraQuest already, people.
Yeah. February the 1st, it goes to Kickstarter. I don't know when this will air, but February the 1st goes to Kickstarter. Short campaign, 18 days. There's some exciting stretch goals with some celebrity participants in there.
Ooh.
Yeah. I shouldn't tell you. I'll tell you off air. Who the celebrity
It's launching this Wednesday before the
right.
thing.
Okay.
I want to try to get as much buzz for this as possible. I made a joke about it, about like, putting the way the reviewer had and being a shill, but that it's really like with the reason I do content creation is not to quote unquote like be objective and review games. I want to share joyful things. I see, like, I have a box full. I have boxes full of joy behind me, and it is like my goal in life to share as much joy as possible. And knowing what I know about gaming with kids, and knowing what I know about having such a paucity of resources for like adventure for kids, like real crunchy, chewy, like delectable adventure that isn't just like a storybook. It's such a empty space right now. And seeing that Dan and Cora have jumped in to fill that space, they've done a lot of the work. Dan is all over the place. Dan, you're posting on different forums. I know you don't like this because you're a grumpy person, but you're posting on forums. You're crowdsourcing your art. You're gathering resources. Like you've been so open about this design process that you could just see it. Like you could just see that the cloud of witnesses, the quality, the people that are involved. I really mean this. This isn't really a shill thing. I mean, I just feel like this project has every chance of ticking all the boxes that we have presented here today.
Thank you. That's very kind and very nice of you. Yeah. Well, I'm a grumpy man, but
very grumpy man.
But only for insincerity is my main source of grumpiness, and there's no insincerity within this campaign, and there's no insincerity within the joy and the love that's coming back to us, and so it's. I'm not a social media person because a lot of people on social media irritate me, but I'm also. I've also been very humbled by the amount of people they help with that. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but it's certainly taken a village to make this game. I mean, the amount of people that are involved is incredible, and none of it would have got off the ground without them. So yeah, no, I believe in this project. I think it could be a a small, I'm not saying a massive, a force for good in the world. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a positive contribution to the world, and it's got my daughter's name on it. It's a wonderful thing, really, and it's something she can be proud of going forward. And that's ultimately the reason it's going to Kickstarter, is because I believe strongly in it, and I also believe that it can be part of my daughter's kind of contribution to the world. And if I can help enable that, then that's fantastic.
And now we can truly say that among the village that is helping bring this to life, Gary Pope has finally contributed something useful.
Hey.
And he said he's going to buy 12 copies as well. So thank you, Gary.
That was really nice.
That might get us. That's really generous of you, Gary. I really appreciate it.
Copy that.
Yeah.
Are we done here?
He's going to hand them out at his birthday party in goodie bags.
Well, Gary's a wedding photographer, so he's gonna hang them out to people who are having their wedding, and they're gonna have their little bundles of joy.
Party favors. Just my
the
wife
thing about the funny thing about that is that I told sorry, I'm not gonna ramble, but I told my couples that I'm gonna try and get every couple a board game this year, or at least pretty much for indefinitely. Yeah. And I'm not giving them CoraQuest.
It's not out yet, Gary, anyway, so you're all right. But, yeah,
give them diplomacy. That'll go a lot better.
Yeah. My wife used to be a wedding photographer back in the day of film cameras. And one day the negatives got delivered to our house, and our dog ripped them all the negatives up from this wedding. So there you go, Gary. She stopped doing it after that.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I would too.
That wasn't a good day in our household.
No. Oh my God.
On that cheery note, on behalf of my good friends Brandt, Sanderson, and Gary Pope from Connecticut, and on behalf of Dan Hughes, who is the designer of CoraQuest,
Co-designer.
I would like.
Go on, carry on.
Thank you very, very much. This is Jason reminding you: if you change your mind, you can change the world. So until next time, later, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday, Gary.
Yes.